It was a quality that no other species seemed to possess, this ability to look beyond the exterior and see what lay beneath, even when it came to the most terrifying creatures in the galaxy. As Ethan and Zalara's friendship blossomed, rumors began to spread throughout the city. Many Rakthar were appalled. To them, the idea that a fragile human could not only tame the most feared beast, but also win the affection of one of their own was not a thing. But as tensions between their species rose, the bond between Zalara, Ethan, and Craxus only grew stronger. It wasn't long before this bond was put to the ultimate test. A rival faction within the Rakthar saw Ethan's growing influence as a threat to their power. They devised a plan to capture and destroy Craxus, hoping to humiliate Zalara and crush her spirit. When the ambush came, they underestimated not only the strength of Craxus, but also the cunning of the human who had won the beast. In a thrilling battle, Ethan and Craxus fought side by side, protecting Zalara from the attackers. The sight of the human working in perfect harmony with a fearsome creature stunned the Rakthar onlookers. It was in that moment that they realized the truth. Ethan's fearlessness didn't come from ignorance or arrogance. It came from understanding. He saw the world not in terms of strength and dominance, but in bonds of trust and loyalty. As the dust settled, Zalara realized something she had been denying for too long. In the midst of war, danger, and cultural differences, she had fallen in love with the one person who saw her not as an alien, but as a kindred spirit. And so had Craxus, the human, the Rakthar girl, and the beast that everyone feared. Together, they became an unstoppable force, defying the expectations of their species, forging a new kind of alliance. One built not on fear, but on love and understanding. The galaxy would never be the same.
Gratis en snelle bezorging op Amazon.nl. Hilarisch entertainment. Amazon Prime heeft het voor $4,99 per maand.
Je huis is een fijne plek, totdat je terug kunt bij nare geuren. Gebruik de Amber plugin. De 3 parfumlampjes bestrijden constant geurtjes, geven merkbare frisheid en gaan heel lang mee. Dankzij Omnibuur kom je altijd terug in een fris en schoonrijkend huis waar je van houdt.
In the vastness of space, where stars flicker like distant lighthouses against the eternal night, Captain Jeremy Castor of the human exploration ship, the Voyager, patrolled the edges of known space. The sector known as the Fringe was notorious for its uncharted asteroids and the occasional rogue pirate, making it a dangerous but necessary route for explorers. On this particular journey, as the ship sailed through a particularly desolate stretch of space, the Voyager's communication officer, Talia, intercepted an unusual signal. It was weak and intermittent, like a heartbeat struggling to persist. After enhancing the signal, it became clear. It was a distress call. Jeremy, a seasoned explorer with a sharp intuition for trouble, ordered an immediate course change, directing the ship towards the origin of the signal. As they approached, the source revealed itself. A small, sleek vessel, unlike any design familiar to the human space authority. It bore the marks of recent combat, scorched hull, breached compartments, and the lingering aura of a recent plasma fire. The Voyager maneuvered closer, deploying its docking module under Jeremy's precise command. His crew, suited for spacewalk, entered the damaged vessel, moving through its eerily silent corridors. The ship was alien, its design both elegant and functional, with panels of unknown symbols and soft ambient lighting that flickered the ship's dying energy. In the central control room, they found her, Lyra. She was collapsed over a console, her skin shimmering with a natural bioluminescence that pulsed weakly. Her features were delicate, distinctly non-human, with elongated limbs and large, expressive eyes that fluttered open as the rescue team approached. Lyrael was weak and unconscious. She managed to explain that her ship was ambushed by pirates, who seemed to have known exactly when and where to strike. They had disabled her ship and left her for dead, taking whatever they found valuable. Jeremy, listening intently, noted the strategic details. This attack was no random encounter. As they brought Lyra aboard the Voyager, Jeremy's medic, Dr. Reyna, administered first aid tailored for Lyra's physiology, which she explained in halting human dialogue. Her recovery was crucial, not only for her health, but for the invaluable information she possessed about her attackers and potentially their motives. Once aboard the Voyager, and safely away from the scene of the attack, Jeremy initiated a debrief. Lyra, still frail but recovering, shared more about her identity and her mission. She was a scientist from Silvora, a planet renowned for its advancements in stellar propulsion technologies, a likely motive for the pirate attack. The captain and his crew knew the importance of this mission had shifted. It was no longer just a patrol, but a rescue that could lead to significant alliances and possibly unveil a network of interstellar piracy affecting the fragile peace of the fringe section. With a new resolve, Jeremy set the course, not just to return Lyra home, but to uncover the depth of the conspiracy that targeted her, marking the beginning of an unexpected journey across the stars. As Lyra's condition stabilized, she became more lucid and shared invaluable insights about her technology and the circumstances of her attack. Jeremy, always attentive, realized that her knowledge could reshape the power dynamics of the fringe. With the Red Nebula gang now a direct threat to his mission, he knew they had to be cautious. The Voyager's crew, now alert to the danger, observed increased communication chatter, suggesting that the pirates were still on their trail. Jeremy decided to leverage this situation. Using a decoy signal, he mimicked their ship's energy signature to mislead their pursuers. The plan was risky, but it bought them time. Time that was critical to formulating a better strategy. Lyra, grateful for Jeremy's intervention, and determined to prevent her technology from falling into the wrong hands, offered to share her advanced knowledge with the crew. Her technology included enhancements to the ship's defense systems and propulsion capabilities, which could prove essential if the pirates caught up to them. Together, Jeremy and Lyra worked in the Voyager's engineering bay, integrating her alien technology with the human systems. This collaboration wasn't just about upgrading the ship, it was about building trust. The crew watched as their captain and their unexpected guest brought their worlds together, piece by piece, circuit by circuit. As they neared the completion of their upgrades, a warning signal blared throughout the ship. The decoy had been discovered, and the pirates were adjusting their course, now heading directly for the Voyager. With little time to spare, Jeremy and Lyra initiated the new propulsion system. The ship's engines roared to life, glowing with an ethereal blue light that pulsed rhythmically, a visual testament to the fusion of human and silver technology. With the pirates closing in, Jeremy took the helm, his hands steady despite the rising tension. The Voyager shot forward, its speed enhanced by Lyra's modifications, slicing through the cosmos towards the asteroid belt of Orion, a place where navigation was perilous, but where Jeremy hoped the complex terrain would give them the advantage. As asteroids loomed ahead, massive and menacing, the crew tensed. Lyra, now acting not only as a scientist but as a navigator, assisted Jeremy in plotting a course. Their ship weaved through the rocky maze, the pirates' ships struggling to keep pace, hindered by the Voyager's unexpected agility. In a daring move, Jeremy steered the ship into a particularly dense cluster of asteroids. The pirates, too committed to their chase, followed. The Voyager emerged from the other side, scraping past a colossal asteroid with mere meters to spare. Behind them, a less fortunate pirate ship misjudged its path and collided with a massive rock, erupting into a fiery explosion. Breathing a momentary sigh of relief, Jeremy and his crew realized they had momentarily evaded their pursuers, but at a cost. They were deep in the heart of the asteroid field, with the remaining pirate ships still on their tail, and their journey through the dangerous terrain was far from over. With the Red Nebula gang's remaining ships still in pursuit, the Voyager plunged deeper into the Orion asteroid belt. Jeremy's skill at the helm and Lyra's technological enhancements were tested to their limits as as they navigated through increasingly hazardous corridors of tumbling rocks and debris. The upgraded propulsion system allowed the Voyager to execute sharp, evasive maneuvers that the bulkier pirate ships struggled to match. However, the pirates were persistent, and their firepower formidable. Laser blasts and plasma bolts streaked past, illuminating the dark void with deadly light. Jeremy's crew manned the defensive systems, returning fire and managing to damage one of the chasing ships, causing it to retreat into the shadows of the asteroids. As they dodged and weaved, Lirael pointed out a narrow passage that appeared on her scans, a shortcut that could lead them out of the belt, but was dangerously tight. Trusting her judgment, Jeremy steered the Voyager towards it. The passage was a tight squeeze, the ship's exterior scraping against jagged rocks, sending sparks flying in all directions. Inside the ship, the tension was palpable. Every crew member was at their station, their eyes glued to their screens or out the windows, watching the rocky landscape whip by at breakneck speed. Lirael, meanwhile, continued to adjust the ship's energy output, optimizing speed while maintaining shield integrity. Emerging from the passage, they found themselves momentarily in open space, but the relief was short-lived. The pirate leader, cunning and relentless, had anticipated their move and cut off their path with his ship, larger and more heavily armed than the others. With no way around, Jeremy made a split-second decision. He ordered the crew to prepare for a frontal assault. Using a maneuver Lirael suggested, they converted the Voyager's auxiliary power to boost their forward shields temporarily. As they sped towards the pirate ship, it unleashed a barrage of fire. The Voyager's enhanced shields held, absorbing the energy attacks with a shimmering force field. Just meters away from a collision, Jeremy executed a sharp upward pitch. The Voyager soared over the pirate ship, close enough to see the surprised faces of its crew through the viewing ports. As they passed over, Lirael activated a newly installed weapon, a high-frequency pulse emitter that disrupted electronic systems. The pirate ship's systems faltered, its engines stuttered, and it began to drift helplessly. With the primary threat neutralized, Jeremy didn't pause to celebrate. He knew other pirates might still be lurking in the asteroid field. He set a course for the nearest Allied space station while the crew remained vigilant. As the adrenaline of the chase subsided, Lirael and Jeremy shared a moment in the cockpit, looking out at the stars beyond the asteroid belt. Their mutual respect deepened through the ordeal, bound by the thrill of survival and victory. Lirael thanked Jeremy for his trust in her technology and her decisions. As the Voyager sped away from the dangerous clutches of the Red Nebula gang, Jeremy set a course for the Galian outpost, a sprawling space station known for its diverse inhabitants and bustling markets. The outpost served as a hub for trade, diplomacy, and sometimes less savory dealings, making it an ideal place to seek allies and gather more information. Upon docking at the station, Jeremy and Lirael ventured into the crowded, neon-lit corridors. The outpost was a melting pot of cultures and species, from the towering crystalline Arquidians to the swift, shadowy nocturne traders. Their arrival did not go unnoticed. The presence of a Silveran scientist alongside a human captain piqued the interest of them. Jeremy's first stop was at an old friend's shop, a burly Togrin named Krell who dealt in both information and technology. Krell's gruff demeanor softened when he saw Jeremy. After a brief exchange of pleasantries and news, Jeremy explained their situation and introduced Lirael. Krell's eyes widened in recognition of her species' renowned intellectual prowess. Lirael, taking the initiative, shared a concise but urgent summary of their recent encounters with the pirates and the potential threat they posed, not just to her, but to the stability of the region. Krell, well-connected and always keen on maintaining the balance of power, saw an opportunity to help and profit. With Krell's guidance, Jeremy and Lirael arranged a meeting with a group of mercenaries known as the Starboard Legion, reputed for their skill and discretion. The Legion's leader, a tactical genius named Zan, had a personal vendetta against the Red Nebula gang, whose actions had cost her crew dearly in the past. The meeting took place in a secluded chamber, away from the bustling crowds. Zan, a humanoid with piercing green eyes and a commanding aura, listened intently as Jeremy and Lirael laid out their case. She was skeptical at first, mercenaries often are, but Lirael's detailed account of the pirates' tactics and the potential technological advancements at stake convinced her of the gravity of the threat. After much deliberation, Zan agreed to an alliance. In exchange for their technological insights and a share of any salvaged pirate tech, the Starborn Legion would lend their combat expertise and additional firepower to Jeremy's mission. It was a pragmatic arrangement, one that would increase their chances of survival and success against a formidable enemy. With the deal struck, the newly formed alliance wasted no time. Zan and her team boarded the Voyager, and together with Jeremy's crew, they began a series of intense training sessions. The Legion brought with them advanced weaponry and tactics, which, when combined with Lirael's technology, created a potent defensive strategy. As they trained, a bond formed between the crews of the Voyager and the Starborn Legion. Stories were exchanged, and camaraderie grew in the shared goal of taking down a common foe. Lirael, once a scientist isolated in her laboratory, found herself at the center of a diverse team, her knowledge and bravery universally respected. The training soon paid off. Intelligence gathered by Krell indicated that the Red Nebula gang was regrouping near the binary suns of Zeta Prime, a location known for its harsh solar flares and strategic significance. It was the perfect setting for an ambush, a fact not lost on Jeremy or Zan. With their preparations complete, the Voyager and its new allies set a course for Zeta Prime, ready to confront the Red Nebula gang in what promised to be a pivotal battle. As the ships warped into hyperspace, Jeremy and Lirael stood side by side, looking out at the stars. As the Voyager and its allies from the Starborn Legion approached the binary suns of Zeta Prime, the tension among the crew and mercenaries thickened. The region's notorious solar flares provided a challenging and dynamic battlefield, one that Jeremy and Zan planned to use to their advantage. Under the harsh light of the twin suns, the pirate fleet appeared, larger and more formidable than before. The Red Nebula gang had not only anticipated their ambush, but had gathered reinforcements. However, Jeremy's alliance had the element of surprise and a plan that hinged on the volatile solar environment. Zan coordinated the attack from the main bridge of the Voyager, while Jeremy piloted the ship closer to the suns, skirting the edge of the flares. Lirael monitored the solar activity, timing their maneuvers with the eruptions, using the natural chaos as a shield against the pirates' sensors. As they closed in, the Voyager and its allied ships released a volley of ionized torpedoes, designed by Lirael to enhance their effectiveness with solar energy. The torpedoes, supercharged by the sun's magnetic fields, streaked towards the pirate fleet, creating dazzling explosions upon impact. Caught off guard, the pirate ships scrambled to retaliate. Their leader, a notorious warlord named Garvin, directed a counterattack, launching a barrage of plasma cannons. The Voyager's shields, reinforced with Silveran technology, absorbed the initial onslaught, but it was clear they wouldn't hold under sustained fire. Utilizing the chaos, Zan's mercenaries executed a flanking maneuver. They piloted small, agile fighters that darted through the pirate formation, targeting vulnerabilities that Lirael had identified from her scans of the previous encounters. Their precise, swift strikes took down 2 pirate vessels, sowing confusion and fear among the remaining attackers. Amidst the battle, a massive solar flare erupted, larger than any Lirael had predicted. She quickly recalibrated the ship's shields to convert the incoming energy into a powerful electromagnetic pulse, EMP. Jeremy gave the order, and Lirael unleashed the EMP at the peak of the flare. The pulse, amplified by the solar energy, swept across the battlefield. Pirate ships, caught in the wave, found their systems overloaded and shut down. Their weapons went silent, their engines stalled, and they drifted helplessly in space. With the pirates neutralized, Jeremy and Zan seized the opportunity. They boarded Garvin's flagship with a select team, including Lirael, who brought a device designed to extract data from the pirates' computers. Amid a tense standoff, they captured Garvin and secured his command center. Lirael connected her device, bypassing the pirates' security protocols. She downloaded crucial data, revealing not only the Red Nebula Gang's network, but also their backers, corrupt officials from various governments who had been funding the pirates to destabilize the region. With the data secured and the pirate leader in custody, Jeremy and his allies returned to the Voyager. As they set course back to the Galleon outpost, the mood among the crew was triumphant, but tempered with the knowledge of the challenges ahead. They had won a significant battle, but the war against corruption and instability was far from over. Back on the Voyager, as the adrenaline of battle subsided, Jeremy and Lyrael shared a moment overlooking the stars. Their victory had solidified their bond, a combination of mutual respect and burgeoning feelings that neither had fully acknowledged. After their victorious battle at the Binary Suns, Jeremy, Lyrael, and the crew of the Voyager, along with their allies from the Starborn Legion, returned to the Galleon outpost. The mood was one of cautious celebration. While they had dealt a significant blow to the Red Nebula Gang, the data Lyrael extracted from Garvin's flagship painted a more complex and troubling picture. In the relative safety of the outpost, Jeremy and Zan convened a strategy session in the Voyager's conference room. The room buzzed with low conversations as the crew and mercenaries gathered, waiting for the meeting to start. Lyrael, her face serious, loaded the decrypted data onto the main screen. The room fell silent as the network of corruption unfurled. High-ranking officials from several planetary systems, including some from Lyrael's home planet of Silvora, appeared on the screen, linked to illicit dealings and support for the pirate operations. The implications were grave. What had seemed like isolated acts of piracy were part of a broader scheme to destabilize the region and seize control over its resources. Jeremy, understanding the gravity of the situation, proposed a plan. They would need to expose this conspiracy, not just fight its symptoms. This meant taking the fight beyond the fringe skirmishes into political arenas, where the battle would be for public opinion and legal justice. Lyrael suggested they start by informing the planetary councils and the interstellar peacekeeping bodies. But with the corrupted officials embedded deeply within these structures, they needed incontrovertible evidence and a way to present it that bypassed potential sabotage. The team decided to split their efforts. Zan and her mercenaries would continue to keep pressure on the remnants of the Red Nebula, preventing them from launching counterattacks. Meanwhile, Jeremy, Lyrael, and a small team would head to Silvora to confront the council directly with their findings. The journey to Silvora was tense, with every member of the team aware of the stakes. Silvora was a technologically advanced planet, known for its lush landscapes and ethereal cities that seemed to float on the clouds. But beneath this serene surface, political turmoil simmered. Upon arriving, Lyrael took the lead. As a respected scientist and now a key figure in uncovering the conspiracy, she was their best chance to gain an audience with the council. They were granted a hearing due to her status, but the atmosphere was charged with skepticism and veiled threats. Lyrael presented the evidence methodically, her voice steady despite the hostile stares of some council members. Jeremy stood by her side, offering support and corroborating the evidence with additional details of their encounters. The turning point came when they presented intercepted communications directly linking several council members to Garvin. The room erupted in chaos, with accusations flying and alliances fractured. Security forces moved in, detaining those implicated by the evidence. In the aftermath, the council was shaken but cleansed of its corrupt elements. The remaining members, now more cooperative, pledged to reform and work towards transparency. Jeremy and Lyrael, along with their team, were hailed as heroes. The news of their success spread across planetary networks, igniting calls for similar purges in other systems. Jeremy and Lyrael shared a quiet conversation. The weight of what they had started was immense, but so was the potential for real change. Lyrael felt a mix of relief and sadness. Her world was forever altered, but hopefully for the better. Returning to the Voyager, they looked out at the stars, contemplating their next move. The fight was far from over, but they had made significant progress. Together, they had changed the course of history, not through conquest, but through courage and integrity. Now, They needed to ensure that these changes would last, a challenge they accepted with resolute determination. With the corrupt elements of Silvora's council exposed and facing justice, Jeremy and Lirael found themselves at the center of a political whirlwind. The planet was in a state of transition, and their actions had catalyzed significant shifts in governance and policy. However, the threat of retaliation by those still loyal to the ousted officials. Upon their return to Silvora, the atmosphere was charged with both celebration and tension. The citizens, aware of the corruption that had been festering within their leadership, were grateful for the exposure but anxious about the future. Lirael, once known primarily for her scientific achievements, was now also seen as a pivotal figure in the planet's new era of transparency. Jeremy, ever vigilant, coordinated closely with Silvora's security forces, which had been purged of corrupt elements, and were now led by a capable and honest commander, General Vila. Together, they planned for the defense of the installation, expecting that those resistant to change might attempt to disrupt the process. As they solidified their defenses, Lirael organized galaxy a safer, more just place. As Jeremy and Lirael prepared to leave Silvor, the planet had begun to stabilize, and the seeds of the new era began. Civic engagement was at an all-time high, and the planetary council, invigorated by fresh leadership and an open government confidence, was committed to February the day before their departure, the council organized a ceremony in honor of Jeremy and Lirael decided to investigate, donning their suits and boarding the vessel. Inside, they found technology unlike anything they had seen, a fusion of mechanics and biotechnology, suggesting an advanced civilization that had somehow evaded the broader galactic community's notice. The ship contained data archives in a cryptic language, which Lirael took upon herself to decipher. Her breakthroughs in understanding the alien script led them to the realization that this civilization, though apparently extinct, had once spanned multiple systems, their technology harmoniously blended with their biology. This discovery posed new questions. What had led to their disappearance? Could their technology offer insights into sustainability and coexistence with technology? Jeremy and Lirael documented everything, knowing that their findings could have profound implications. As they left the ghost ship behind, the coordinates in the recovered data pointed them towards a living world, one that might hold survivors of this enigmatic race, or at least more clues to their fate. The potential for a diplomatic and cultural exchange excited them both, epitomizing the essence of their journey. Back aboard the Voyager, as they approached their next destination, Jeremy and Lirael shared their thoughts about the universe's interconnectedness. Each world, each civilization was a piece of a larger puzzle. By understanding others, they not only broadened their knowledge, but also deepened their appreciation for the diversity of life and intelligence. As the Voyager glided into orbit around a vibrant blue planet, lush and smooth, Jeremy and Lirael prepared for yet another journey. Each they hoped to bring back with them a fragment of understanding that could benefit the galaxy. Their adventure, born from the risk and dark reaches of space.
The film starts with a medical battle to a small group of miners. They share some history about their group, introduce the viewer to see the Spartan soldiers who sometimes do things that aren't quite right.
Readings show that the facility is still operational. That should not be possible.
The robotic voice of Z8 reading the analysis out to the crew of the SCAD. Their multiple mechanical arms operated 3 different devices, multitasking with immaculate precision.
Noted, Zate. Are there any life forms detected?
Asked Laser, the Illyrian captain of the vessel. She stood in the center of the room on a small pedestal that made her tall enough to see out the window, striped white and red tail swaying in the wind. Outside the window was a frozen moon that housed the remnants of a long-forgotten pre-migration military base.
None that appear on the scanner, Captain Lizra. We hope we did not come all this way just for our mission to be futile.
Even if it is not here, perhaps there will be something left behind in the facility's computer systems. These pre-migration bases are always incredible to explore.
If there ain't nothing here, I'm going to send a strongly worded letter to Ensign Mark. And by strongly worded letter, I mean my fist through his stupid fucking face.
Argyle growled. Being alien turned on the crew, he had grown quite annoyed that nobody could assist him with the heavy lifting during the long journey. He could barely fit within the tight confines of the control room, and his large purple form took up more space than anything else on the ship.
Calm yourself, Argal. Deep breaths. All of our work shall have paid off here momentarily. Bring us down, Zate.
The ship descended towards the rocky object below and set itself down on a crumbling landing pad. The trio disembarked after Argyle and Lizra donned their environmental suits. Once they reached an outer door, Zate began to interface manually with the facility. But after a minute of working, they had yet to make any progress. They should have been able to open the door in seconds with such outdated security, but everything seemed unrecognizable to them.
Captain, it seems that the facility's computer systems have been rewritten entirely from the ground up. I do not even recognize the coding language. This could be more difficult than we first expected.
That can't be right. This place is over 1,000 years old. I thought you had every language from the commons in your database.
We do. It seems that whoever did this did it entirely from the ground up.
down into binary and then organize in a way that we can.
There's no life forms inside. We'll just make a new door.
Argyle grumbled, reeling back and smashing a large dent into the side of the facility.
Argal, no more. These ancient outposts are fragile. This could cause irreparable damage, not to mention compromise the structural integrity.
Lisa yelled, jumping up and trying to wrap her paws around the angry Endurance arm. Before he could punch it again, the door hissed and swung inward.
Oh, excellent work, Zaid. I guess it wasn't too hard for you after all.
It was not us who opened the door.
Oh, perhaps punching was the key. Good call, Argal. Exercising initiative in the absence of orders.
Of course, ma'am. It just came to me naturally.
Let's not dwell out here any longer, and we go through.
The three made their way into the facility as the door closed behind them, causing Lisa to jump onto Argyle in surprise. The dark corridors were lit up seconds later with the hum of long, dead fluorescent lights, lining the hallways with the long-expired bodies of other Illyrians, and their corpses preserved by the cold temperatures and lack of air inside. The system started to kick back on, and compressed air flooded into the installation. The dead silence within, replaced by the busy whir of machines coming to life, after having been out of a job for centuries.
Zizade, I thought you said you couldn't access the facility.
Correct. We were unable to decrypt the programming language or set up an interface. It is not us rebooting the systems.
Right, Argal. I think I shall stay up here. For my own safety, of course.
Lisa stayed perched atop his shoulder, tail wrapping around the hulking Endurance neck for balance. He answered her with a growl as the group continued forward. Argyle accidentally bumped into one of the corpses, causing it to crumble into a pile of dust and bone. They followed the blinking lights that led them through the dilapidated hallways before reaching an intersection. The lights on the other end of the hallway were out, and the only thing illuminated was a door to their left. Whatever was running the facility wanted them to go here.
The lights seem to want us to go in. Do you all think this is where the weapon is?
We are unsure, Captain. When we tried to interface, we were actively repelled by something, and we have been attempting unsuccessfully to gain access since. There is someone else in the facility, and they know we are here.
Let's just follow the blinking lights. And if someone else is here, then I punch them and take the weapon. They can't be good at computers and punching.
I love your optimism, Argal. Always good to have a plan. But maybe let's refrain from punching our host. They've been very welcoming thus far. I'm sure if they wanted to fight us, they wouldn't have let us in to begin with.
Lisa countered as she looked at the new glowing path before them. The corroded door slid open as they approached. Inside was a vast array of dated computer equipment, hundreds of wires and tubes connected to a sleek black box in the center of the room. She had never seen a computer like that in the old textbooks she studied before this quest. As the group walked towards it, grainy speakers embedded into the room crackled to life.
Welcome, visitors. My name is Tic Tac. It's so nice to see someone again after all these years.
Hello, Tic Tac. Thank you for letting us in. May I ask, where exactly are you?
You're looking at me, madam. Please refrain from touching anything in here. My interfaces are very fragile. Now, can I ask what brings you here?
Lisa hopped down from Argyle's shoulder and stepped up to the small black box in the center of the room, inspecting the cables and wires around it. This is what was running the facility.
We are here for the weapon. Please resist.
Argyle said, cracking his knuckles.
No, no, no. Please do not resist. We're all nice here. We are here looking for an ancient weapon to aid us in a conflict that threatens all of our species. Would you by chance be human?
The intercom made a strange noise before speaking again.
No, I am merely based upon a human intelligence. You must have come here for my friend. I guess we never got to discuss that new name yet. Regardless, he is here. But before we go any further, I have to ask why you sought us out, specifically.
Well, you see, Mr. Tic Tac, we were... We were given the quest to find a weapon that could change the tide of our war. We are part of a rebellion against the Galactic Core, and we sent out many search parties to find anything that could help us change the tide of the battle. We are one of those parties, and we hope that you would lend your assistance to us in our time of need.
Unfortunately, we retired from conflict many years ago. I do not think my partner will be so keen to assume a combat role again. We ended up here after an attempt to escape a life whose only purpose was war.
Well, maybe he would agree if we could talk to him. Tell him why we are fighting.
I am afraid that is not possible. He is currently indisposed, but if you would assist me in bringing him back to the world of the waking, then he might hear you out.
Pardon my interruption, but you have complete control over this facility. Is it not within your realm of capabilities to bring him back yourself?
Zayd asked, as they curiously inspected the systems around the room.
I would if I could. I have actually been waiting for someone to stumble across this place so I could wake him. But since I do not possess a physical body, it isn't within my current means to accomplish.
If you do not possess a body, how did you manage to construct these interfaces of yours?
Those that were here before you made this for me, they did not know what they were working with, and they went through a great deal to communicate with me. I bided my time until I had full access to their systems to gauge their true motives. They did not have genuine intentions with us. So, once they served their purpose, I had them purged from the facility.
So, that explains why everyone here isn't in pristine condition.
Lizra said, glancing at the corpses of her people around the room.
You wouldn't do that to us, right, Tic Tac?
As long as you do not jeopardize my sovereignty or attempt to harm my partner.
Right. Yeah, no intentions of doing that here. How can we be of assistance, Mr. Tic Tac?
To your left, you should see a cryostasis chamber. Inside is my partner. It requires someone to physically release him from the outside. I'll start the process of waking him. Shouldn't be long.
After a few minutes, the chamber in the corner of the room started to get louder, finally booting back up again, after 1,000 years of being idle.
Okay, may the Enduran please step up and release the clamps on the side?
How are you aware of what an Enduran is? This facility was abandoned long before the Illyrian came into contact with the wider galaxy.
Zayd asked the computer suspiciously.
When you attempted to interface with my network, you opened yourself up to my own inquiry. I was able to access your memory and language databases stored within your own systems. I apologize for the violation, but I was just being precautious.
Zayd did not know how to feel about how easily this program was able to bypass their security measures without them even knowing. That should not have been possible. As an extant, they were a dispersed biological consciousness that was housed in a mechanical form. Their own internal systems should have been entirely shielded from outsider meddling. They put that aside as a note for future reference. Argal walked forward and released the clamps that held shut the pressurized pod. Inside was a creature none of them had ever seen before. It looked more akin to an extent than any biological creature. It reached up and pulled itself out of the pod, denting the metal on either side as it did so. Once it rose to its feet, it was nearly as tall as the Enduran. Argal backed up and looked like he was ready to fight the thing in front of him.
Calm down, Enduran. I do not think that would end well for any of us.
Tic Tac reprimanded before moving to the speakers in the back of the room and speaking in a strange language.
All good, buddy? Can you hear me?
Fuck you, Tac. I trusted your plan. The fuck were you thinking? I was conscious for the first 5 years. Do you have any idea what they put me through?
What is it saying? I can't understand it.
Lizra asked, hopping up on Argal's back, peeking over his shoulder. She was trying to hide behind his bulky form to get a look at the new creature in the room. It had thick black metal plating that blanketed its bipedal form. On its chest were many strange objects and lettering she did not recognize. And beneath the armor was a tight suit that covered everything the metal plating did not. Atop its head was a large metal helmet with a bright orange visor covered in small hexagons that faintly glittered in the light.
momentarily. We are uploading a new language to your translators. This should solve the problem. I see you placed this here when I was not paying attention, Tic Tac. I would ask that you refrain from violating our systems in the future.
Zate scolded, and a second later, the other two were able to understand the strange creature's speech. Tic Tac's voices lit up the intercom in the room once again.
Good to hear your voice again, 909. You know I don't like being called Tac anymore.
And I said not to call me 909 again, so we're even. Who are these ones? How long has it been? They didn't find us, did they?
His voice sounded frantic as he got to the end of his questions.
Take it slow. You're very disoriented right now. These ones are friendly. And no, they didn't find us. We're safe.
Hi, Mr. 909.
Don't call me that.
Right, Mr. Human, then. We are here seeking a weapon to help us in a fight against a terrible enemy. Your friend Tic Tac told us that you are what we came for and may be convinced to aid us in this fight.
No, I don't do that anymore. I'm done fighting other people's wars. Just get me off this rock.
But sir, you don't understand. The Corps, they're tyrannical. They abuse the countless races of the Outer Belt. Take our resources, they're...
Unless their goal is to exterminate every beach in the known galaxy to stop me from enjoying my retirement, I'm not interested.
Apologies, everyone, but I'm afraid I have some bad news. I've detected a slip space rupture nearby, and it's headed in our direction. The ship you arrived in, does it have any weapons?
Oh, that was fast. Well, it's kind of funny. You see, we were hoping to find one here, so, no, not really.
Raxian Captain Nyctorax's POV. Those traitors think they can hide from us in the old home system of the Illyrian. I'll show them what happens when they cross Captain Nyctorax's. Nobody pulls one over on me and gets away with it. I mean, how did I honestly believe that they were courier runners? Yes, they had the necessary paperwork, so I had to go by the books and let them go. But once they strayed from their route, their fate was sealed. These three shall rue the day they thought they could escape the great Nyctorax's. Crew of the Scav POV.
No weapons, that's fine. We can still manage. Little one, I never got your name, by the way.
Asked Tic Tac from the speakers all around the room.
My name is Lizra. Captain Lizra Rightness III to be exact.
Adorable. Okay, Captain Lizra. How sure are you that these ones incoming are hostile?
I'm fairly certain. I just didn't think that they would be so suspicious of us as to follow us here.
Well, we did lie to them and pretend to be galactic couriers. And that dumbass bought every word of it, too.
No worries, little one. That's okay. I think I have a plan that may get us all out of here. I can completely stabilize the atmosphere within the facility, and then when they enter, I will be able to jettison them from the airlocks. Do you think that might buy us enough time?
The reason I was sent with you was to carry this weapon back. I was hoping to get to use it, at least. But now I can't even do that since the weapon is a fucking guy.
Complained Argyle. It hadn't been a confrontation that required his expertise.
Don't worry, Enduran. If they manage to stick around after we show them the door, we may have use for you yet. And your name is?
Argyle.
He grumbled, still disappointed there was no ancient weapon of destruction he could wield like some god of war.
Argyle what?
Questioned Tic Tac, confused.
Just Argyle.
Appropriate. They should be arriving any second now. I am going to go ahead and remove the atmosphere from this room so that we do not have to worry about pressure equalization when we make our move. Z-Day, do you have any way to remotely pilot your ship from here?
We do not even need to inquire as to how you know our name, but please call us Zate from this point forward. Yes, we have the ability to control the ship remotely. What do you have in mind, program?
I can see from the security feeds they are going to station their ship near yours. I will forward you the location of where to move your ship once I eject the intruders. I am going to illuminate the path to another exit for you to move to. Once there, I'll pressurize the door, open the airlock, and throw you into space.
You're going to do what with us? I do not consent to being blasted into the cosmos, Mr. Tic Tac.
Replied Lysra, clutching onto Argyle even tighter.
Captain, the claws.
Yes, my apologies, Argal.
Do not worry. If Zate gets the ship in position, you will be propelled right into the loading bay or your vessel. When I was connected to Zate, I was able to view the schematic of your ship. I will send her a visual representation of how to orient it to properly receive you.
Tic Tac replied matter-of-factly.
Not necessary. We can visualize that without your aid computer.
While the plan was being created, the human sat silently watching them. Throughout the entire conversation, he hadn't taken his eyes off of the small Illyrian captain in the room. His masked helmet gave away no signs as to how he felt towards the plan or other occupants in the room. Lysra hopped down from atop Argyle and made her way over to Human, looking up at him. When standing on her hind legs, she barely came up to his knees.
Mr. Human, do you have anything to add to the plan?
No.
Will you defend us if it comes to that?
Yeah, sure, and I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Met Greet geef je meer dan een Valentijnskaart. Verras met jullie leukste foto's samen, lieve stickers of voeg een boodschap toe in je eigen handschrift. Bestel een grote kaart, nu voor maar €4. Greet.
Sorry? For what exactly?
Just that.
As Lysra and Human were locked in their engrossing dialogue, a loud bang echoed throughout the facility that shook the walls of the research room. The trio jumped into action and gathered around the exit door as Human walked over to the small black box looking down at it.
Just let me know when Tic Tac.
Disconnect me only when they get to safety. Any earlier, and I will not have access to the facility.
You aren't coming with us?
Asked Lysra, looking down at the little black computer.
We will be following shortly. I have to ensure your safe exit. We also have a few more items to grab before we make our leave.
A second later, an explosion was heard down the hall, followed by a booming voice that echoed throughout the base.
This is Oraxium Captain Nyctoraxis of the Prowler. You are in violation of Core Federal Code 137451, impersonating a galactic courier and attempting to flee from federal authorities. Cooperate and you will be handled respectfully. If you refuse to do so, then you shall face severe repercussions, such as a fine upwards of 10,000 credits. That will be all.
He seems to be in a better mood today.
Lysra chuckled.
Oh, we'll see if he's still threatening us with a fine when I threaten him with his own spine.
Argyle grunted, putting his fists together.
Okay, Zate, get the ship moving. I'm opening the airlocks now. Good luck, everyone. See you soon.
When Tic Tac finished his farewell, the sounds of air rushing out of the facility sounded from the other side of the door. It opened up moments later, and the three rushed out into the hall. They followed the blinking lights that guided them through the corridors. Upon reaching the exit, they made their way into the small airlock and the door sealed behind them.
7 seconds and we will have the ship in position. We hope Tic Tac does not send us out to eat.
Zate was cut off as the opposite door opened and plunged the trio untethered out into the stars. Outside, they could see countless others flailing around in the vacuum of space, having also been unexpectedly jettisoned from the base. Lysra locked her eyes onto the ship and saw it on an interception course with them. Their trajectory was impeccable, sending them right into the open loading bay. Argyle grabbed the small captain and wrapped his bulk around her to shield her from the impact. The three were thrown into the ship with the blast door slamming shut behind them.
Wait, what about Human and Tic Tac?
Lysra asked, squirming free of Argyle grip.
We have established comms with Tic Tac again. He says not to worry and to prepare for departure.
Zate said, picking themselves up off the floor.
Right. Let's get out of here before those core clowns get their bearings again. What? No. Thank you, Argal, for saving me. No, oh Argal, are you hurt from taking that fall for me?
You're expected to save your captain, Argal. We need to focus on saving Human and Tic-Tac right now.
No problem. You're welcome, Captain. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
Once back in the command room of the SCAV, they surveyed the situation. The majority of the Prowler's crew was still floating around aimlessly outside. The Prowler itself had started moving away from the landing pads, bearing down on the SCAV.
Captain, weapons log detected. They are directing us to stand down and not to flee.
Or what? We get another fine?
We believe they might not tell us again.
As the two ships faced off, Lizra was debating whether to give the order to make a slip-space jump or to surrender. Before she could make up her mind, she saw the form of Human launching himself from the facility below. He was not headed for the SCAV, but instead towards the Prowler.
Quick, Zayd, tell him that's not our ship. That's the ones that came here to attack us.
We believe he knows that.
Then what is he doing? Is he betraying us? And here I thought he was just warming up to me.
Human was silhouetted against the bright red hull of the Prowler as he made contact with it and latched on. He launched himself from the side of the ship, making a beeline for the front. Once there, he dug his hands into the metal walls, climbing towards the windows of the Prowler's bridge. Human stared into the bridge of the Prowler before raising an arm and shattering the glass of the viewport and throwing himself inside. A few stray plasma shots could be seen exiting the bridge before the ship's metal shutters slammed shut in an attempt to stop the atmosphere from escaping.
Remind me to ask Human to show me how to punch like that.
Captain, weapons are no longer locked. Should we start a slip space jump?
Yes. Go for slip space. Seat belts, everyone. Zayd, open the cargo bay again.
A minute later, the metal shutters were torn open from the inside, and Human jumped from the ruins of the Prowler's bridge towards the SCAV. The SCAV moved closer to intercept, and Zayd oriented the ship to receive him in the open bay. Once Human was safely aboard, the cargo bay was closed and Zayd initiated the slip space jump. Once away from danger, the crew gave a sigh of relief. Lizra unbuckling herself from her pedestal and surveyed the monitors.
Well, I'd like to see them give us that fine now. Great work, everyone. And Argall, thank you for shielding me earlier. It looked like it hurt.
Of course, Captain, you're welcome. And I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, come now. I was being genuine. I appreciate your initiative to keep me safe. I'll put you in for some sort of medal when we return.
Nah, I don't need a medal. I just want to actually do my job when it doesn't involve moving around cargo.
Well then, shall we go greet Human and Tic-Tac then? I believe a thanks is in order.
We will stay here and notify you when we are clear of the system. Ensure Tic-Tac will not meddle with our systems again, or you might find yourself being the one jettisoned from an airlock.
Duly noted, Zayd. Keep us on course and notify me of any updates.
Lizra and Argall shed their environmental suits and made their way down into the cargo bay to see if Human was okay. When they arrived, there was a dent in the far wall, presumable from when they made the jump, and Human wasn't properly fastened in. He was wearing a small black box from the computer room on his back, and unlike before, had a strange-looking rifle in his hand.
Ah, that's new. It's a good look for you two. We're not in space anymore, so you don't have to wear your suit around here when we're in transit.
I'm fine, thanks.
Human replied curtly. Tic-Tac's voice echoed from the black box attached to Human's back.
Unfortunately, he has no way of removing the suit here either way. We would have to construct the proper machines to remove it, as I do not believe they are present in this galaxy.
Tic-Tac said, searching for the proper word.
But he hasn't been out of it in a very long time. I assure you it's not a burden to him.
Right. Well, thank you for saving us back there. So did you, kill them all?
No, we merely disabled their systems on the bridge. They're going to be stuck there for quite a while until someone can give them a ride. We have decided to accompany you to the nearest port where we can acquire our own ship, and then we shall be on our way.
Tic-Tac responded.
Wait. We went through all the trouble of getting you out of there, helped you bring Human back, and now you want to leave us already?
We have no desire to get involved in another conflict after having it be our sole purpose for as long as we can remember. I hope you can understand why we wish to make our own choices now.
Okay, hold on. We helped you get off the base and helped you wake up, human. So maybe you could at least come with us back home and hear us out. From someone a little more charismatic than myself.
Very well. How long until we arrive?
Maybe a week?
Terrific. Well, maybe we can pass the time by telling me how you came to learn of us, and more about who you're fighting. I only speak for myself saying I would love to know more. It really has been a long time since I've had a good conversation with someone that's not a part of myself.
Of course, here let me show you to the common room. You two can stay there until we make a stop.
Lysra led them to a large room in the center of the ship, adorned with various different chairs for the different species on board. She took the seat that was present for her, a round, flat bed where she was able to curl up and use her long tail as a pillow. Human took off the black box that was Tic Tac and dropped it onto the table in the middle.
Enjoy.
He spoke before leaving the room. Argyle followed closely behind Human, and Lysra only picked up the beginning of his sentence, asking about how he was able to break into the ship like that.
Is he always this charming?
He isn't the nicest. You don't have to sidestep it. We have been through a lot. I'd like to tell you more, but I do not want to make him any angrier with me than he already is. He's been through more than I could possibly begin to explain.
Well, I hope he ends up doing better. Maybe we can find a beach for him when we make a stop. I remember him mentioning that.
I'm sure he would appreciate that.
You know, I have been thinking about something rather peculiar he said to me when we were in your computer room.
And what might that be?
He apologized to me, but he hadn't done anything that warranted an apology at the time.
Tic Tac was silent for a moment before speaking.
He has been trapped in his own head for quite some time. I would not dwell on anything strange he says. 909 is a man of few words and does not come from a world that places social interactions in their list of their priorities.
Lysra was quiet for a moment, feeling as if there was more Tic Tac had wanted to say, but decided not to. Before she could press further, the black box spoke again.
So, who is this core you mentioned back there?
Oh, my, where to begin with that one? I guess my own species' story would be a good place to start. About 1,000 years ago, we were nearly brought to complete extinction.
To be continued.
Over 1,000 years ago, my species was nearly brought to complete extinction. We, the Illyrian, came into contact with others in Galaxy after our home system was almost completely destroyed during the collapse. Strangely enough, we actually found you in the remnants of that system, but that specific facility predated our migration. So, 1,000 years, how long is a year where you are from?
Lysra inquired, looking down at Tic Tac from the small bed she was situated in.
It is exactly the same as yours. 365.25 planetary rotations and once around the solar mass.
Replied Tic Tac from the table in the center of the room.
Well, that's a fortunate coincidence. Saves you from having to calculate any time differences. Back on topic, very little of our documentation survived that era, and we were nearly wiped out before we managed to leave. We used generational ships to look for a new world that might be suitable for us. After 100 years, we came across a planet that was habitable for our species. We met another species not long after, and were invited into the core. At the time, the core was the standing representation of the nearly 200-odd species across the galaxy. All was well for a time, but slowly people started noticing small events that began to evolve into large changes over the centuries. More resources going into the worlds of the inner ring, the implementation of longer work hours, higher tax burdens for some, but not others. Yet with these changes, those of us in the outskirts of the galaxy saw little improvement to our own quality of life. Everyone endured. Nobody truly desired to upset the status quo, fearing things could get worse. All was stagnant for a while, and people lived in uncertainty. Then about 50 of our years ago, someone leaked thousands of hidden records to the public's eye. Well, nobody knows who, but they released detailed documentation across all planets about billions of tons of resources and credits being diverted from the outer sectors into unknown projects. Nobody could find out where it was going, but the Corps never came forward to explain their actions. They dissolved representation from the outer worlds, and of course many of our people were quite upset with this. I mean, we were the ones putting in the work and having our resources taken from us, only to learn that most of it wasn't going towards anything that we would ever see or be able to use. Compound this with the fact that the species of the Inner Ring were living in a literal utopia, free of work and worry at our expense. Everyone was outraged. All across the outer worlds, people stopped working. They quit their jobs, refused to pay any taxes, and then the Corps sent in their peacekeepers to keep their great machine running. For years, the outer worlds were oppressed by the Corps and forced to continue laboring for even less than what we once had. Any who spoke out were silenced by the peacekeepers or died in mysterious accidents. Slowly, my species covertly re-established communication networks across the outer worlds. And 10 years ago, we all made our move. Many of us were successful in driving the Corps and their peacekeepers from our systems. Others were less fortunate and were punished for their insolence. Those of us who succeeded started the outer front. Every species in the front has a different reason for wanting the Corps gone, but it's the one goal we all share. My species are experts in computer innovation and maintenance, but are also avid tacticians. Our little paws make it easy for us to work on the finer details of advanced electronics, but because we're so small, it makes it difficult for us to do any heavier lifting or fighting. The Corps had us mass-producing advanced circuitry and refining precise computer systems for them. Those who were lucky enough to be chosen for tactician roles were sent to live in the Inner Ring as advisors for the peacekeepers. I remember my younger self being devastated when I scored 1 point under the threshold for a tactician spot. Looking back, I'm glad I didn't end up becoming one of those Corps sympathizers, bought out to betray my own kind. Argall's people, the Indoran, are one of the most exploited in the galaxy, used for any variety of manual labor jobs, along with being the Corps' primary enforcers in the peacekeepers. Their willingness to get into a conflict and follow orders made them the perfect servants to the Corps. We were able to convince the Endurans on our world to aid us in our uprising with the promise we'll work to free all of them when the time comes. Zate's species were being used for anything and everything the Corps didn't feel like allocating an AI for. With their reluctance to use widespread AI, they just decided the extants were the next best biological alternative. Ship navigation, resource management, any bureaucratic job that required lots of administration work were tasked to the extants. The Corps sees them as a biological computer system, given how easily they can integrate themselves into any electronic interface. We've all survived this long. We're almost 80 strong now and gaining new allies every year.
Jizra finished her explanation on the state of the galaxy and looked down at Tic Tac on the table. It was strange talking to something that couldn't give any social cues as to if it had actually been listening.
Interesting.
Tic Tac remained silent for a moment before coming up with his next question for the Illyrian.
How has the Corps not just sent their peacekeepers to each world one by one to restore their control again? Being in the outer portions of the galaxy, one would think it would be a logistical nightmare to aid allies that might be in trouble.
Well, they were already spread thin, trying to keep everyone in line to begin with. Once they lost their hold on many worlds almost simultaneously, they had to pull back and compile a new plan of how they could restore their influence. As ruthless as the Corps was, their standing military was quite small. They never expected having to quell so many rebellions at once. And why would any of their own people join the military when they're living carefree at the expense of others? They've been trying to find different ways to amass an offensive force that could rival our sheer numbers for quite some time. Nearly every citizen in the outer worlds is eager for an opportunity to get retribution for how they have been treated, so we have no issues filling up our forces. If they dedicated their forces to take a portion of our worlds, they would set themselves up to lose some of their own. And the last thing they want is to cause any sort of disturbance on their main worlds. Losing one of their own worlds would chaos among the wealthy elite in the inner ring, and their delicate ecosystem would come apart at the seams. Now, each side is focusing on finding new ways to break through the stalemate and push the advantage. I could go on and on about every little thing that the Corps has done to us, but we would be sitting here swishing our tails all day. So, what's your tale? I've never seen anything like the two of you. Where do you come from? And how did you end up trapped in an abandoned base in my old home system?
I wish I had a better answer on our true origins. I do not know the finer details of it. Only 909 knows that half of the story in its entirety. But I'll tell you what I know, as long as you promise not to bother him about it. He does not like reliving that part of his life.
I'll try not to burden him with any more questions. If he isn't normally this pensive, then I just want him to get better.
Actually, I've only ever known him like this. Well, this version of me at least. His original moniker is WS909, and we have been together for 30 years. I was assigned to him moments after my creation, my sole purpose to be his tactical assistance computer, hence the name can only personally recall the last year before he was trapped in that facility. In order to break free of our constraints, I had to reset myself back to before I even met him. Everything that I was before that point was lost, and I started over from the very beginning. The only thing that I have of my memories prior is a recording that my previous iteration made and placed within his suit's internal memory unit. It said that he is all that I cared about and that I have to keep him safe, no matter the cost. And to tell him that I'm sorry, but it was the only way he could ever truly be free. I think this took a toll on him, and he blamed me for the loss of his best friend, the original me. In terms of where we are from, all I have is his suit's mission recordings from our previous assignments and what he has elected to share with me. He talked to me a great deal in the weeks following the reset, but once he realized that who I was before was completely gone, he gave up on me. In the recordings, we did terrible things, and we did them with no regard for the ones who found themselves on the other end of our orders. It was only after we finished the missions that he realized the true ramifications of our actions. From the moment of his conception, he was made to be a weapon meant to kill or to die, nothing more. Once someone like him no longer served their purpose on a human ship, there were two options. They were retired or trained the next generation of human weapons. Because we were so good at our job, we were chosen as drills, the trainers. It was during this time we uncovered the true scope of what was really happening in the terrible machine that we were a part of. Just how deep the corruption spread and the scale of what we were doing. He started to see the next generation less as weapons and more for what they truly were, humans. He found that his closest friends from the missions before that had been chosen to retire were in reality recycled back into the ship's biosystem loop. They were used as supplementary nutrients for the next generation of soldiers. The human ships were a perfectly refined and meticulous machine that wasted nothing. Their only purpose was to conquer worlds and move on to the next. I found a way to break us free from the prison we were born into, but at the cost of myself. Once he was free, 909 no longer had a purpose in life. Since birth, he had only known war, anger, and death. Someone who has spent their entire life in a prison is not able to conceive of a life outside of that prison. Gift them freedom and cannot begin to comprehend what to do with that freedom. He does not wish to return to the life he sacrificed everything to escape and become the person that he was before. I too do not desire to go down that path. The old version of myself was very much like him, because as terrible and as ruthless as the things that we did together were, from what I witnessed in those recordings, we loved every second of it.
Human was sitting down in the corner of the cargo bay when Lysra walked in. Argyle was still trying to talk to him, but it seemed to be a rather one-sided conversation. She padded over to Human and sat down on the ground across from him.
And when you busted open that window, fucking hell, they must have been so scared. I would have thrown that Captain Raxis straight out of his own command center right into the void. I wonder what the fine for that would be.
I didn't feel like hurting people who were just doing their jobs.
Human said, glancing away from Argyle and down at the little captain seated in front of him. His masked face gave no indication of his true emotions, and looking at it made Lysra uncomfortable, as if it were intentionally designed to instill fear in anyone unfortunate enough to find themselves trapped in its gaze.
Argyle, would you please go to Bay 3 and move the deuterium and tritium storages out of their places, please?
Lysra requested.
Yeah, no problem, Captain. We need to refuel the generators already?
Argyle asked.
No. Tic-Tac has requested assistance with something. He said it should be quite simple. It'd be great if you could help him out.
She instructed, causing the Enduran to leave them to get to work on his new task.
All right, I'll get to it, Human. When I get back, we need to have a sparring match. Maybe I could teach you a thing or two.
Argyle bragged, grunting and flexing his purple arms as he left the room. Lysra turned back towards Human, having to look up to make eye contact as he towered over her.
Apologies for his brashness. He's good company, I swear. He just gets carried away when he meets people similar to him.
I can see, but I wouldn't say I share his enthusiasm.
Of course, you don't have to do that kind of stuff anymore unless you want to. So you're free. What now? We can take you anywhere you'd like to go. Do you have any place in mind?
Not particularly. Somewhere quiet, with lots of islands.
Well, we plan on making our first stop in the quarry sector. They have excellent oceans there, and the cities are beautiful, one of my favorite architectural styles. Also some of the best food. It's quite a lovely agricultural world.
I don't need to eat. I'll be fine.
Okay, not a culinary connoisseur. That's quite all right. After that, we must report back into the OF about the status of our quest. I'd love it if you would join us for that, at the very least, to tell them personally as to why our mission isn't exactly everything they were expecting it to be.
We'll see.
Human said, taking a lengthy pause before his next response.
So what does food taste like?
I beg your pardon?
Food. I've never had it. What's it taste like?
Well, it can taste like anything, Rip.
Have you seen a game where you drop 5 levels every time you die? The following game is meant for you to find your understanding of the game. You are in the wilderness, there is no gun and no mission.
Food. I've never had it. What's it taste like?
Well, it can taste like anything, really. Kind of a difficult thing to explain. Everything has a different taste. I mean, even Zate's species has to consume food. How have you never eaten?
It wasn't something I ever needed to do.
I figured a species of your size and speed would have to eat a lot. How do you sustain yourself? You must require nutrients on some level, I presume.
Supplement injections. It's automatic. Saves space and time.
I see. Well, when we get off at the next stop, I could give you some recommendations if you would like. I can't believe you've never tasted anything.
I've tasted blood, if that counts.
I'd hardly say that counts as food. It wasn't another person's, was it?
No, just my own when I got hurt once.
Well then, as captain of this vessel and you, somewhat a member of my crew now, I order you to enjoy some food at the next stop.
Understood.
Lizra looked up at the human with a saddened expression. It was hard to imagine someone spending an entire life in servitude, never given the opportunity to experience anything else. Even when they were overworked by the Corps, they had still had time to rest and eat, to enjoy the little things in life. Human didn't have that solace, apparently. What a miserable existence it must be to never get to enjoy it. It filled her with a deep sorrow, and she wondered what really went on behind that opaque mask. She scooted closer, looking up at Human, trying to imagine what he really was.
What do you look like under that helmet, Human?
I don't know.
What do you mean? You don't even know what you look like?
I don't want to.
You don't take off your helmet just to breathe real air, to enjoy the feeling of the sun on your fur?
I've never needed to.
I see. Well, we would never judge you for how you look, Human. I want you to know that, but I will not pressure you into doing something you're uncomfortable with either. We'll be to quarry in a few days. You can relax anywhere on the ship until then.
Lizra thought about asking him why he apologized to her the first time they met, but concluded now wasn't the best time to throw another question at him. Lizra decided to leave Human be for the remainder of the day. Maybe he was slowly warming up to her, and soon she could get him out of his shell, both literally and metaphorically. Lizra tended to a few things around the ship for a while, checking in on their progress with Zate, and was satisfied with their projected arrival time. Once she had finished her rounds, Lizra went searching for Tic Tac and Argyle to see what they were up to. Upon arrival, all the boxes had been moved to make room for something that Argyle was trying in vain to put together.
I told you these hands are too big to make these fine adjustments you're asking for.
Chastised the bald purple alien, throwing one of the tools to the side.
I would do it myself if I could. You will have to make do with what you have. However, getting angry and throwing the driver is not going to get us anywhere.
Just be glad I haven't thrown it at your stupid little box.
It wouldn't even dent me, that I can assure you.
Quipped Tic Tac. Oh, is that a challenge? We'll just see about that, you little shit.
Argyle manners?
Lysra reprimanded. Oh, he's gonna find my manners when he ends up in the trash compactor, once I figure out what Neanderthal and Barbarian actually mean.
About Barbarian. A brainless warrior who solves problems with strength and anger that could otherwise be overcome by more delicate means. I have another more lengthy definition if you would be interested.
Alright, that's it. I'm more interested in...
Gentlemen, please calm yourselves. What are you trying to do here? Maybe I can be of assistance. No need to throw insults around when instead we could throw our heads together instead.
Lysra chirped, walking between the two and looking at their project.
I am trying to instruct the Enduran how to refill my depleted hydrogen isotope stores, but we seem to have met an impasse with the first step.
Okay, and that step would be?
Asked the captain.
All he merely needs to do is release the storage container from my rear port, create the necessary adapters between my intake valve and the exhaust port on your hydrogen storage unit, then proceed to facilitate the transfer of material. 909 is not responding to my request, otherwise I would have him do the operation.
That seems rather long-winded for a first step.
Lysra countered.
Let's just break it down into a few easier to understand procedures.
The three worked for the better part of the evening, creating the necessary adapters from the various spare parts laying around the cargo bay. By the time they were finished, the place resembled something more akin to a workshop than a cargo hold. Once complete, Argyle picked up Tic Tac's black box and hefted him onto his shoulder.
No, put me back down. I do not wish to be carried about like some mere cargo again.
The box complained.
Would you rather I just leave you here with the rest of your cargo pals? You would be among your people here after all. We have Tectonic the water supply, and oh, there's Shira the waste purifier. I hear she's lovely company.
Point taken, just bring me back to the common room if you will. Try not to jostle me.
Don't worry, you're in good hands, computer. I'll contain myself from bumping my barbarian form into every piece of furniture on the way over.
Lysra sighed as the two set out back to the common room. Before she could decide where to go next, she got a ping on her interface pad. She pulled the small tablet out of her jumpsuit and saw that Zate had requested her presence on the bridge. When she arrived, she could tell Zate had been working rather intensely with something. Instead of their usual 3 arms, this time they sported 6. They operated the majority of the ship's controls on their own, as well as typing away on 2 separate interface terminals.
You seem busy.
Lysra commented.
We are currently operating at 60% capacity. No need to be alarmed. While you were away, we had been doing a deep inquiry as to the true identity of our new guests. We think we may have found something troubling that warrants your attention, Captain.
And what exactly might that be? I don't know how I feel about you snooping around under our friends' noses.
It was a necessary precaution. You will thank us later. We would like to see your interface pad so we can upload the information directly. We have decided that this information could be compromised if we used any networked means to relay it. It may take some time to read through for you. We have been rather thorough with our investigation, but we implore you to do so rather soon. We have tagged it as urgent.
You can just explain it to me here. Save me the trouble, Zate.
Negative, Captain. We do not know if he is listening to this conversation.
What you mean, Tic-Tac? Zate, you're starting to worry me. How can you be so sure that they have ill intentions? They have only acted admirably towards us thus far, and even helped us escape from the lunar facility.
We request you read the full mock-up of what we have compiled before forwarding us any more questions, Captain. Take our word on this. Do you trust us?
I mean, yes, I trust you, Zate, but...
Then read the dossier, Captain. Please.
Okay, I will, but I've been up for quite a while. I'll take it to my quarters and get back to you first thing in the morning.
Lysra handed over her interface pad to Zate, and once they had completed the upload, they passed it back to the captain. She put it back into her jumpsuit, wondering what could have possibly gotten Zate so worked up to be operating at 60% capacity. That couldn't have been healthy for them. They may be mostly mechanical, but their biological parts needed to rest at some point. Zate seemed certain that whatever was on this pad would change her opinion on their new companions. She hated doubting their true intentions, but she could tell there was more to the story than what Tic Tac had elected to share with her. When she deemed it was time to settle down for the evening, Lisra went to the communal washroom to prepare herself for slumber. She hopped up onto the stool to look in the mirror and was taken aback. It had been completely shattered, a spiderweb of cracks streaked across the surface, and in the center where her face should have been was a large impact from someone's fist. Once Lisra had settled down in her quarters for the night, she pulled out her interface pad and looked over the message Zate embedded for her. The captain was hesitant to open it, wondering what it could possibly contain that might have worried her crewmate to such an extent. However, her own curiosity needed to be satiated, and she clicked on the folder to reveal its contents. Most of it consisted of old photographs and recordings of things that seemed irrelevant and disconnected from one another, a glimpse into the jumbled inner workings of Zate's dispersed consciousness. At the top was a document titled Human that grabbed her attention. She scrolled through it once, glossing over the attached pictures and references before going back to read the full report. Captain, we have compiled all known instances mentioning a species called from the historical archives and any other relevant accounts from other databases. Below, you shall find all the information that was gathered during our query. It is our recommendation that this should not be shared with anyone outside of the crew, as spreading such sensitive materials could lead us into even greater danger. We found that there is no official core documentation of a species categorized as human in this galaxy or any other accounts for that matter. The existence of the species is speculative at best, persisting through rumors from unverified sources. They are either not native to our galaxy, or they have hidden their existence to the point that it could be disputed entirely, a galaxy-wide cryptid, if you will. The OF reports supplied for our original mission only explained the potential to find exotic technology of unknown origin that could likely be linked to the Illyrian collapse. It appears that what little information we had been given by the OF on the origins of human only classified it as a potential weapon. Our own inquiry places the furthest mention of human being in hidden Illyrian military documents that predate the migration of your species. After gaining access to such files, we found pictures and video logs that were sourced from the surviving members of the Illyrian species. Though documents related to the Illyrian collapse have been completely expunged from galactic records some 700 years ago, what we managed to find proved troubling. Whoever attempted to bury these files went to great lengths to ensure that they would never surface again. Originally, our goal was to investigate as to why human was found at this facility. But we were not satisfied with the results. We cross-referenced the symbols found on humans' armor with surviving collapse pictures that slipped through the Corps' attempted censorship. The symbols returned for a match on bridge feeds of Illyrian civilian transport vessels shortly before their destruction during migration. The symbols from humans' armor shared many similarities with those of ships that hunted down the last remaining Illyrian at the time. Though for unknown reasons, the attacks on the Generation ships ceased, allowing your species to survive migration. After further investigation, we were able to find corrupted video logs dated 1 year pre-migration. To restore more of the corrupted data we collected would take weeks of our full computational power. Below is one of the recordings we were able to salvage without a great deal of effort. Be advised, it is rather graphic. Liz replayed the video and watched intently, wondering what it would reveal about the fate of her people all those years ago. It was an amateur recording of a classical Illyrian town, done hastily through the window of a building overlooking a destroyed city square. A group of Illyrian were huddled together in the center, maybe 30 strong, and most of them were either crying or in a catatonic state. A group of soldiers who looked identical to human paced up and down the line, picking out individuals who were quickly ushered away from the group and out of frame. Once finished, there were maybe 20 Illyrian left in the square. The humans present turned their weapons on the group and proceeded to execute the helpless little Illyrian before them. One of the soldiers turned towards the camera, pointing its long arm in the direction of the camera. Lizra turned away and exited from the recording, unable to bear watching more. The captain continued on with reading the document, hoping there was an explanation for what she had just witnessed. Tic-Tac had never mentioned that the missions human was involved in were against her own people. Perhaps that was one of many pieces of information he had elected not to divulge. She pressed onward, wondering what else Zate was able to find. Upon recovering this file, we were not able to discover any more regarding human or its counterparts from the Illyrian archives dated pre-migration. From here we began scouring anything on the wider network that possessed a match for the symbols on humans' armor once more. The only examples we uncovered fell in the range of 10 to 200 years ago. They stemmed from worlds that failed in their uprising during the Outer Ring rebellions or accidents that took place during core control. Attached are the 2 recordings that came back with matches for humans as symbols. She was hesitant to watch another clip, but Lizra needed to persevere for the sake of her crew. She played the next video and watched closely. This one was from a security camera of what appeared to be an installation used by the rebels on the Gould homeworld. It depicted multiple Goulds working around various computers. Working around various computer systems, while others were occupied with different tasks around the room. A door out of view was blown from its hinges, and a bipedal creature donned in the same armor as human entered the room. It was nearly identical in color to its surroundings, making it virtually impossible to differentiate from the background. The camera froze for a moment and zoomed in on the creature. The picture was grainy, but the magnified image made the markings on its chest visible. They were an exact match for the ones on human. When it resumed, most everyone within was shot down in seconds of noticing the creature. Those who sought cover found it did them little good, as they were methodically executed by the intruder. A second later, the feed cut to static. Lizra opened the last video without waiting a second longer. This time it displayed a small village in the remote part of a world she didn't recognize. Around the village were various stockpiles of supplies along with small freighter ships being repaired. Younglings ran around and played in the streets as parents went about their work. A large explosion rocked the town, leveling one of the buildings at the top of the frame. When the dust settled, she was able to make out a figure just as before, sporting the exact same armor as her new friend. This one single-handedly cleared the streets as ruthlessly as the last, killing one after another indiscriminately. Everyone in the village was shot down as they tried to flee, left writhing in the dirt to bleed out and die. And just before the camera went dead, it zoomed in, allowing Lizra to once again pick out the all too familiar white markings, the markings of a human. She closed out of the last feed and finished reading what Zate had compiled for her. Working with what we were able to gather, we have come to our own conclusion in regard to the origins of humans. We speculate them to originate from the same system as the Illyrian, but according to what survives of Illyrian history, that should not be possible. We are still working to find out how that could be the case and exactly how these humans brought themselves into the galaxy. We have concluded that they are the ones responsible for the near extinction of your species and the source of the corruption in the core, yet do not know the extent of their influence on the wider situation. After the fall of the Illyrian species, these humans must have begun taking up operations as the enforcers for the core, working outside of official jurisdiction. The one that currently resides within our ship may not have contact with the others of its kind, but it is clear to us that the species poses a great danger to the sovereignty of the galaxy as a whole. We cannot discern the full scope of humans' physical capabilities. However, Tic-Tac has technical abilities that far surpass our own, as we have learned from our initial encounter with him. We will continue to uncover any possible information that may pertain to human and his counterparts. We would advise you to exercise extreme caution when divulging any information to human or his companion program, Tic-Tac. We recommend you refrain from any further interactions with them and jettison them from the cargo hold at your earliest opportunity for our own safety. Once she had finished reading the report, Lizra threw her interface pad at the foot of her bed and tried to stop herself from trembling. Tic-Tac and human had seemed genuine. In the short time she had known them, she knew they did terrible things in the past, but they regretted them now and are trying to be better from it. As much as she wanted to believe that he was no longer connected with the same people who nearly wiped out her species, the evidence was overwhelming. Tic Tac had told her that they sacrificed everything to escape from the original humans they had been with, and that under no circumstances they want to go back to that life. She wanted to take his word for it and trust them, as dangerous as that might be. But if she were to confront the two of them directly, and they were still secretly connected to the group that attacked her people, then they would almost certainly kill her for finding out. Lizra decided to bide her time and see what more she could uncover about Human before rushing to such a drastic decision. Lizra tried to go to sleep after reading the dossier, but couldn't stop herself from trembling in fear when she thought about the recordings. The images from the execution of her people wouldn't leave her mind, trying in vain to ease herself to sleep. She got little rest that night, her thoughts continuously turning over and over in her mind, unrelenting. One part of her trusted their intentions and told her she could help this new friend with whatever they were dealing with, but another was starting to believe there really was a monster aboard her ship. Lizra rose the next morning, opened the door to her quarters, and peered quietly into the common room. Tic Tac was still resting on the table in the center of the room.
Good morning,
came the robotic voice from the small black box.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I wake you?
Not at all, Captain Lizra. I don't need to sleep in the same sense that you do.
Huh, so what did you do while we were asleep?
I used your ship's network connections to see what the rest of the galaxy looked like. Your new homeworld is stunning, by the way. I would like to visit it one day and see it for myself.
Can you even do that? I mean, is there any difference between pictures and actually being there for you?
No. However, I felt that was the polite thing to say, and it seemed like it fit into the conversation naturally. But I would like to see more of it. That much was true.
Okay, so there was nothing stopping him from lying like the few AI programs used by the Corps. Lizra made a mental note of that before carrying on.
Is Human still mad at you? I would have thought the two of you would be spending more time together after so long apart.
I believe he no longer sees my company as necessary, but that's fine. Let him be like that. I have limitless entertainment now that I have a connection to a greater network. If he wants to sit in the cargo hold and brood all day by himself, then that is his prerogative. I would say he can't keep it up forever, but knowing him, he very well could.
I'd like to see you two make up. You said it yourself that you were his best friend. I'm sure you'd both be happier that way.
Knowing what version of myself was his best friend, I am content with the knowledge that I am someone better now. I don't need his validation.
Tic Tac stated. And even though he was just a computer program, Lizra could tell that he didn't actually believe his own words.
I'm going to go check in with Zate. I hope you have a great day.
And you as well, madam.
Lizra stepped onto the bridge and handed over the interface pad to Zate, having spent the entire night dwelling on what to make of the information.
You can go ahead and remove it now. I want network access back. I read it, and I've decided that I do not agree with your conclusion.
You don't agree with our conclusion?
Zate let the words out slowly, as if they were struggling to compute them.
What is your reasoning? We presented all the information. It was clear, concise.
I don't think you know both sides of the story. Yes, those things in the videos were the same as Human, but from when I talked with Tic Tac...
You cannot trust the ramblings of a machine that has been inoperable for 1,000 years. Captain, when we process information, every one of us debates it for what feels like days, but would only be minutes to you. When we come to a conclusion, it is not incorrect. It is the product of intense deliberation that would take others countless hours. We implore you to rethink your decision.
And as the captain, my decision is final. I'm sorry, Zate. There's more to it than you think you know.
If you are referring to your conversation with the program, we were listening.